Have you ever wondered who started the first nursing school and what the world was like before proper patient care and hospital sanitation? In 1854, at the time of the Crimean War, the alliance of British, Turkish, French, and Sardinia soldiers were fighting against the Russians and suffering badly. Many wounded soldiers came into the military hospital in Scutari to try and recover. But because of the bad sanitation and diseases like cholera and typhoid, more soldiers were dying there instead of on the battlefield. Conditions were terrible, as evidenced by rats running along with little food or clean clothes and beds. The injured soldiers were hopeless until 33-year-old Florence Nightingale responded to a request from her friend and British Secretary of War, Sidney Herbert, to help the soldiers. Florence Nightingale revolutionized nursing and women's roles in the workforce. Her push to improve patient care, to establish the first secular nursing school, and to make nursing a respectable profession for women became a turning point in history. Before the Crimean War, on May 12, 1820, in Florence, Italy, Florence Nightingale was born. Also known as Flo, she grew up to be a beautiful lady in a rich family in England. She lived with her sister Frances Parthenope, also known as Parth, her mother Fanny, and her father William. When she and Parth were younger, their father educated them and showed them algebra, science, and history. They also learned music and sewing. Florence did like to learn about new things and was a softie for animals. As she grew, she owned Athena the owl, Plato the cicada, 2 chameleons, 2 tortoises, and 60 cats. She also nursed a shepherd sheepdog named Cap, who got hurt by children throwing rocks at him. She didn't just love animals, she wanted to help humans as well. When Florence told her family that she wanted to be a nurse, they got confused. Even though she was wealthy, she wanted to do more than host parties and be a housewife. She felt called by God to do this work. However, it wasn't normal for proper women to be around the unfortunate. Hospitals were dirty, unsanitary places where people often died. Florence's parents were very against that idea. They wanted her to marry someone instead. Despite these conditions, her parents let her go to Germany, where she got trained in the Institution of Protestant Deaconesses at Kaiserswerth Nursing School for a few months. She learned how to bandage wounds, care for patients, and observe. She moved to London and became the superintendent of the Institution for Sick Gentlewomen, governesses, in distressed circumstances. There, she improved the efficiency of the hospital. She wanted to train nurses, but then a war started. On October 1853, the Turkish Ottoman Empire went to war with Russia. British journalist William Howard Russell, who worked for the London Times, was the first modern war correspondent. He went on the battlefield and wrote what he saw, reporting to the soldiers' families and friends back home. They hated seeing this and complained to the British government. It was then that Florence's friends Sidney and Elizabeth Herbert sent her a letter about all the poor men dying. They asked her to round up at least 40 other nurses and some nuns to help. She, without question, agreed to come. When she found her women, they set course for Scutari. Once they got there, Florence could not believe her eyes at what she saw. She and her nurses were confined into tight rooms with up to 12 women. The ceilings leaked with water, and rats ran across the floors. When she saw the wounded soldiers for the first time, she realized their food was moldy. The buckets of water were contaminated, and thousands of men were resting or trying to on the floor. Their clothes were full of blood and dirt. The lack of hygiene, plus blocked drains and broken toilets, gave the hospital a really bad and disgusting smell. "This is really going to need to change," Florence communicated to the women. The male doctors and surgeons weren't happy with Florence and the nurses arriving, since women had never been a part of the military before. This resulted in them, at times, not listening or working well with these trained nurses. Without a sincere welcome, Florence still wanted to make a difference and not give up. After a few days, more injured men came from the battles of Balaclava and Inkerman. Bleeding with the damaged men, the doctors had no choice and let the nurses in to help. Florence worked very hard. She scrubbed the hospital clean, paid for new beds and clean sheets, bought fresh foods for soups, gave the men fruit, bandaged the soldiers' wounds, and bought spotless clothes. She was known to work 20-hour days. Even when her nurses were sleeping, she would stay up and walk around the hospital if any of the men needed water or new bandages. In the darkness of night, her hand held a lamp, fully lit and bright. A news reporter from the Times in London called her the Lady with the Lamp. Even with all of Florence's work, the men continued to die. Eventually, they learned that the hospital was built over a sewer. The sewer was drained, and the number of deaths decreased rapidly. The very first requirement in a hospital is that it should do the sick no harm. Florence realized that diseases were spread through filth. When she was growing up, hospitals were places to die.
For so many reasons. It's such a big part of what we do, but overall it keeps patients safe and it helps the spread of disease to lessen or hopefully go away.
Through her work, she became a national hero. Fans notated poems and songs about her, and even captains named their ships after her. People helped the poor more, and mothers named their daughter Florence.
She learned so much. It sounds like she was a brilliant woman. She wrote books, she came up with theories, but overall I think she was able to spread the word that sanitation is so important in spreading diseases all over the world. She was able to teach that each human deserves the right to be treated in the healthcare system, and that women, men that are practicing as nurses deserve to be looked at as a professional, which was really different than what had been thought of as that role back then.
In 1855, a national appeal for a nursing training fund started. Money was raised from concerts and events. Even the soldiers who had fought in the war donated. With a bit of the money, Florence made the Scutari hospital tidier. She bought better equipment and food, paid workers to clean the drains, and made a laundry house where she enlisted help from the wives and widows of the men to do the wash. Florence became a talented statistician who created a graph called the coxcomb diagram, which helped show how many more men died from disease than battle wounds. She showed that out of the 18,000 soldiers who died, 16,000 were killed by disease. After the last soldiers left, Florence went home. With the rest of the money, she decided to found her own nursing school. It was the first secular, professional nursing school that would teach all the things Florence learned, like the importance of sanitation.
Florence Nightingale was the mother of modern nursing. She truly changed the outlook of the profession. She is known for her role in taking the role of nursing into a more professional setting. She thought it was really important for each nurse to go through an education system and came up with a school that set a standard of nursing care that allowed the practice to be standardized to keep patients safe and healthy.
In 1860, it was called the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas Hospital. By the start of the 1900s, 2,000 women were certified as full-time nurses to help whoever needed them. Florence said, "Live your life while you have it. Life is a splendid gift. There is nothing small in it." She believed that life isn't just about having fun or being lazy. You must make your only life count by being successful and taking on challenges and making changes.
I think Florence taught us a lot of lessons, but overall the compassion, the desire to serve, making hospitals a cleaner and safer place to be, overall decreasing mortality rates throughout the hospitals and all of patient care nationwide.
Sadly, Florence died on August 13, 1910, at the age of 90, but her school was blooming every day and her graduated students made differences everywhere they went. Thanks to Florence and her amazing work and dedication to becoming a nurse, hospitals are safer to go to now that we know germs won't harm you there. Florence Nightingale changed the world by saving so many who would otherwise die from disease and making nursing a socially acceptable work for women.